There was a time in America when carrying a $500 bill didn't make you suspicious. It made you powerful. Imagine pulling out a single piece of paper and casually paying for something worth hundreds of dollars. Not digitally, not with a card, but with a physical bill that most people today have never even seen in real life. The $500 bill wasn't a myth. It was real. It circulated, it was used, and then, almost quietly, it vanished. So what actually happened to the $500 bill? To understand that, we have to go back to the early 20th century, a time when the American economy was expanding fast and large transactions were often done in cash. This was before online banking, before instant transfers, before credit cards became mainstream. If a bank needed to move money or a business had to settle a large payment, they didn't click a button. They used physical currency. That's where high-denomination bills came in. The United States didn't just have a $500 bill. There was also a $1,000 bill, a $5,000 bill, and even a $10,000 bill. Yes, $10,000 printed on a single piece of paper. These bills weren't meant for everyday people buying groceries or paying rent. They were designed for banks, financial institutions, and wealthy individuals who needed to move large amounts of money efficiently. The $500 bill itself featured President William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't widely advertised, but it was powerful. At a time when the average annual salary in the U.S. was under $1,500, holding a $500 bill meant you were carrying a third of a year's income in your pocket. Let that sink in. So why don't we see these bills anymore? The answer lies in a mix of technology, crime, and government policy. By the mid-20th century, the way money moved started to change. Banks became more sophisticated. Wire transfers became more common. Instead of physically transporting stacks of cash, institutions could move money electronically. This made high-denomination bills less necessary. Why carry a bulky stack of $500 bills when you could send millions with a simple transaction? But there was another, darker reason. High-denomination bills became increasingly attractive to criminals. Think about it. If you're trying to move illegal money, whether it's from organized crime, drug trafficking, or tax evasion, you want to do it in the most efficient way possible. A suitcase filled with $100 bills holds a lot of money. But a suitcase filled with $500 or $1,000 bills? That's exponentially more. In fact, using larger bills made it easier to hide and transport massive amounts of cash without drawing attention. And as crime networks grew more sophisticated, these bills became tools of the trade. By the 1960s, the U.S. government started to take notice. In 1969, the Federal Reserve made a quiet but significant decision. It would officially discontinue high-denomination bills, including the $500 bill. This wasn't a dramatic public announcement. There were no headlines screaming about the end of an era. It was more of a strategic move, a recognition that these bills were no longer necessary for legitimate use and that their risks outweighed their benefits. At the time, there were still millions of dollars worth of these bills in circulation. But once the decision was made, no new $500 bills were printed. Slowly, as people deposited them into banks or used them in transactions, they were taken out of circulation and destroyed. And just like that, the $500 bill began to disappear. But here's the interesting part. It never technically became illegal. Even today, if you somehow have a genuine $500 bill, it's still legal tender. That means it still holds its face value of $500. You could, in theory, walk into a store and try to spend it. But realistically, most people wouldn't even recognize it, and many businesses would refuse it simply because they've never seen one before. Instead, these bills have taken on a completely different role. They've become collector's items, and not just any collector's items, valuable ones. Depending on the condition, rarity, and series, a $500 bill today can be worth far more than its face value. Some sell for $1,000, $2,000, or even more at auctions. In pristine condition, rare versions can fetch several $1,000s. What was once just a piece of currency is now a piece of history. So how many are left? Estimates suggest that only a small fraction of the original $500 bills still exist today. While exact numbers are hard to pin down, it's believed that fewer than 100,000 are still out there. Many of them in private collections, vaults, or museums. Compared to the billions of $1 and $100 bills in circulation, that's incredibly rare. And this raises an interesting question. Could the $500 bill ever come back? Technically, yes. The U.S. government has the authority to print high-denomination currency again, but in reality, it's highly unlikely. Why? And because the world has moved even further away from physical cash. Today, we live in a digital economy. Payments happen instantly. People use credit cards, mobile apps, and online banking for everything from buying coffee to transferring thousands of dollars. Even large financial transactions rarely involve physical cash anymore. In fact, cash itself is becoming less common in many parts of the world. And when it comes to crime, large bills are still seen as a risk. Governments prefer systems that are traceable, trackable, and harder to exploit. Reintroducing something like a $500 bill could make it easier for illegal activities to operate under the radar, something authorities are keen to avoid. Interestingly, this isn't just an American story. Other countries have also phased out high-denomination bills for similar reasons. The European Central Bank stopped issuing the 500 euro note, often nicknamed the Bin Laden, because it was known to exist but rarely seen in everyday transactions. The reasoning was almost identical: reduce crime, increase transparency, and adapt to a digital financial system. So in many ways, the disappearance of the $500 bill isn't just about one piece of currency. It reflects a much bigger shift in how money works, from physical to digital. But there's still something fascinating about it, and maybe that's why people are still so intrigued by it today. It's not just about the money, it's about the story. The $500 bill didn't disappear overnight. It wasn't banned. It wasn't destroyed all at once. It simply faded away. If history has shown us anything, it's that nothing stays the same forever. The $500 bill is one of those things. A forgotten giant of the financial world, a symbol of a different era, and a reminder that even the most powerful forms of money can become obsolete. So the next time you pull out a $20 bill or tap your phone to pay, just remember, there was once a time when a single bill could be worth $500. And it was completely normal. And now, it's a rare piece of history, hidden in collections, locked in vaults, or maybe sitting quietly somewhere, waiting to be discovered. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Not just what it was, but what it became.